I have a speaker ready for next month, and it will be, I think, kind of like a continuation of where we are here. But this month we wanted to start out the year this year with something for people that are just beginning to, are just learning how, or are curious about doing a family tree. And so we entitled it Genealogy 101, and I reached out to Mr. Gibbons, who has been a regular attendee here. He's been here almost as often as some of our members. So, but we wouldn't bring him back if he wasn't doing a great job, so let's put it that way. He is going to do Genealogy 101. Next month, I'm working to get Jamie Lee McManus Mayhew back by way of Zoom, and she has a program called Introduction to Lucid Chart. Not sure what Lucid Chart is. It has something to do with genealogy though. So we think we know, but I don't want to say because I could be very wrong. But anyway, she's going to do a program called Introduction to Lucid Chart. I don't have a whole lot more to say. If you have a particular interest in some area for a speaker or program, please let me know, and I'll do my best to fill it with a speaker or a program. So other than that, would you welcome with me Mr. Gibbons, Robert Gibbons, and genealogy?
Let me see if I can get this working. Now, can you hear me through the mic? Okay, good. This is a difficult situation for me because I like to be in front of my computer so that I can look at the screen and stand up here, look at my screen, and be able to keep eyes on you. But this doesn't work out quite that way, so we'll have to see how that goes. Out of curiosity, how many of you are actually beginners? So that I have an idea. So we did draw in a few of you. Good, good. Hopefully this will be instructive to you as how you can get started. I have a basic plan here. We're not trying to teach you how to be a genealogist so much tonight, because you can't do that in an hour. That's impossible. So we're going to try to teach you what I would recommend as a way to get started that will maximize the benefit to your time and effort, all of that. Now, I don't have a normal syllabus, as you can tell. And I've already been told that some of us are technologically challenged. Okay? This is not hard. This is what's called a QR code. And to access it, all you need is a smart device, whether it's your phone or a tablet, something that has a camera. And all you have to do is just point your camera at the QR code, and a little yellow symbol will appear at the bottom. You click on that, and it will take you, hopefully, to the slides for tonight.
Wow.
And if it's on your camera, of course, it's going to be kind of hard to really benefit much from them. But what you can do then is hit the little 3 dots and download it, and then email it to yourself, and download that on your computer, and you've got the slides right there on your computer. Now I do that because that way you get to see the things. You won't be able to see the animation, sorry. But you'll be able to see everything other than the animation on the slides. And I find that to be a lot more beneficial than printing up all the stuff. And plus, if I print that stuff out, as soon as I print it, I start finding things I want to change. And it would have happened on me on this one because I found some things today to add and discovered something that needed to be changed that I didn't even have time to change. So, with that said, this is interesting. I've done this presentation before, and I rebranded it for you folks and made a bunch of changes to it to fit the audience. And then I started thinking, you know, I've been doing this for a lot longer than most of you, more than likely. I've been doing family history work for about 65 years. And it was a different world 65 years ago. Where's my pen? This was my copy machine. In fact, my grandmother handed me a family group sheet and a pencil and said, start copying, and that's how I started family history work. And things have changed a lot since then. It's gone through many mutations and changes to where we're at today. If I had done this presentation 10 years ago, it would have been a totally different presentation. If I had done it 10 years prior to that, it would have been a totally different presentation from that. Things are changing. And so what I tried to do is develop a presentation that I think will show you how to get things started. Now, I work with a lot of new people that are just getting started. I work with family history centers, and I've been working with people for decades. And so I've had a lot of experience with this, so I kind of know what I think works well. Now, I do have a prejudice. I've worked for Family Search for 15 years, and so I'm kind of pro-family search. One reason I'm going to use that as a focus tonight, we could use Ancestry or Find My Past or a lot of different things, but Family Search is free. I can recommend Family Search to you because I know it's not going to cost you a cent. Where if we say, okay, let's build this on Ancestry, then if you don't have an Ancestry account, you're going to have to spend about $200 a year plus to have an account so that you can build a tree there. But you can do the same thing at Family Search to get started at least for free and go from there. I recommend that you don't rely on just something online. Now, I don't care where you go. I have a tree at Ancestry, I have a tree at my family, or at Find My Past, a tree at My Heritage. I have a tree on WikiTree. I've got trees all over the place. There's no one place that is better than the other. It's whatever you use. If you use Ancestry all the time, build your tree at Ancestry. I use my Ancestry tree. I was using it today. Then I transfer the things over into Family Search. But that's, up to you. But I would strongly recommend that you have something on your computer that's yours. That's my recommendation. If you're going to do things seriously and really spend any time, pay $30 and get a program like Roots Magic or Legacy or Family Tree Maker or something that you can use on your computer so that you have a copy of your genealogy that nobody changes, and if a company goes out of business, that doesn't matter, you're still going to have it, that sort of thing. So, with that much said, let's kind of see where we're headed today and see if this is still working. Okay, we're going to try to assist you on how to get started. And like I said, we're going to focus on Family Search only because that's my favorite and it's free. And so we'll show you building a tree in Family Search. But you could do the same thing at Ancestry. It would take a little bit more work actually, but you could do it there or any other website. Now, here we go. First thing I want to do is talk about some myths and rabbit holes, some things that you might get messed up in that could really get you sidetracked from what you want to do. And so the first one is, don't reinvent the wheel. This is a big thing I'm going to push tonight. You don't need to do all the research from scratch at the beginning. So don't reinvent the wheel. Let's learn to collaborate and use the websites that are out there to help us get started. But don't blindly just accept everything you find. That's the flip side of the coin. You don't want to have to dig up everything from scratch when somebody else has already done it for you, but you're going to want to go back and verify everything that you do find. Never just accept things at face value. Okay, verify, 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 verify. Figure out what I've got to get standing or work better. Whoops. Come on, let's go back, not forward. Okay, work from the known to the unknown. There's a real, especially with beginners, there's a real tendency to have heard, oh, you're descendants of Daniel Boone, so you jump to Daniel Boone right off the bat and start building his pedigree. when you skip that little step of connecting yourself to Daniel Boone first to find out if he really even is your relative. Just because you have a Boone line doesn't mean you're related to Daniel Boone. So be careful on that. Everything isn't online. Some people say, oh, you can find everything online. That doesn't work. Everything's not online. There's a lot on there, but I venture to say there's as much not on there as there is on there, maybe even more not on there. So you may have to do some live research somewhere. See, that's the big change. When I started, almost everything you had to go see it. There wasn't much that you could do from your house. You had to go somewhere to do anything. Now you can do a heck of a lot in one day at home, and probably do more in one day at home online than you could have done 50 years ago in a year, doing the way things were done in those days, and you wouldn't have found half the stuff you could find today because it wasn't even available to you, or you wouldn't even know it existed. Okay, beware of traditions. The Daniel Boone thing's a good example. There's usually some truth in every tradition, but very few traditions are fully true. My own maxim on this is there's an inverse relationship between how famous the person is they're saying you're related to and the reality. In other words, the more famous the person, the less likely they really are your relative. I've got one line where they say it goes back to the Mayflower. Well, that's wonderful, because I can't get back to the Mayflower even with all my relatives in New England. But that particular line does not go back to the Mayflower. The family they want you to go through have a daughter with the right name. She's married to somebody else. And so it's usually that kind of a situation. The more famous the tradition, the less likely it is to be true in full. Okay, be flexible. You're going to make mistakes. I know that's hard to believe. I've made them. Be willing to own up to them and change them. Don't be inflexible about things. If somebody comes up to you and says you're crazy, listen to them. They might know something you don't know. Come on. And life and pedigrees can be messy. You have to accept that. You don't know. You're digging into an unknown pile. And you never know what you're going to pull out of there. And so you just have to go with the flow. Sometimes you're going to pull out some things that are unseemly or not pleasant, and that's life. That's the way our lives are. And so, you don't need to manufacture things to kind of sanitize the pedigree. Just report what you find and live with it, because that's about all you can do. And nowadays with DNA, there's a lot of things we're finding out that are different than what we thought were true. And it's always better to say, I don't know, than to just make a guess or fill in something to fill a box in. If this is the end of the line because you can't find any more, just accept it. Don't go inventing things. That's what drives me crazy, is when I go through trees and I find these families that I know nobody has ever found anything for them, and they're throwing these people in there. There's no way they could be the parents, but they're putting them in there because you've got to have parents for people, whether they're the right ones or not. For some people, it doesn't matter. Okay. And this is a never-ending search. Every time you find somebody, you're going to have to find two more. You realize that. When you're doing your ancestry, every time you find an ancestor, that doesn't end it, because now you've got two more to find, a mother and a father. Then you find one of those parents, you've got two more to find. This is never going to end, so accept it and just take your time and work through things and just be patient, and you'll be amazed what you can accomplish. Okay, and don't limit yourself to just one source of information, not just saying like one record or something like that, but like one website. Don't limit yourself to just one website. Use all of them that you can get access to. There's a lot of pay sites. Family search you can do from home. Sometimes you have to go to a family search center in one of the LDS churches around here so that you can get access to some of the records that aren't available to the general public. But that's about the only restriction there. For ancestry, if you don't have an account, come to this library, I'm sure, or most public libraries, the Family Search Center, and you'll be able to get on their institutional version for free. But you can't build a tree. You have to pay if you want to build a tree on their site. And that's the way it is with most of the sites. But don't limit yourself to just one source. Okay, where can you get more information? This is where you can go, and this is why you want to have access to the slides, because you can then see the website, you can type it out. Where can you go to actually learn the real basics of how you do actual research? Okay, one of them is to go to familysearch.org/getting started. They have a great set of lessons for you to walk you through steps for getting started. Some of this stuff is what I'm going to talk about today, but a lot of it is directed more at research. We don't really have the time for that today. The other thing is Family Search has a blog where they do things like what's new at Family Search every month and things like that. And in this case, there is a blog entry called Simple Start Family History. And it's another presentation of steps to go through to get started. Very basic things for people to begin with. And then there's always a place for help on Family Search. And that's after you've signed in, there's a little question mark icon at the top of the page over by where your name is. And that little circle icon will take you to this drop down. And on this drop down, you come down here to Help and Learning and click on that, and you can ask your questions. And that's where you find the help information. You could also put the same questions up here, but it's easier just to actually go to the actual help center, Help and Learning Center as it's called now. And whenever you're on a certain page, there'll be some suggested topics for you based on whatever the topic is for that page. This was the home page on the website, so it didn't give very cool suggestions. Okay, so getting started. You're sitting there saying, what do I do? Actually, it's pretty simple. You start with yourself. You write down everything you know about yourself to begin with. Your name, your birth date, your birthplace, your parents' names if known, and that sort of thing. Of course, not your death date. You don't want that in. Okay, gather everything you've got laying around. You might be surprised. There could be things in your house that name people and put in dates and places for you that you don't even remember. And so you go through your house and try to find any documentation that you can find. Look on the back of the pictures, things like that. Interview the relatives. Get it done now. Tomorrow can be too late. So start talking to the people. Well, I wish I could bring my mother back. My dad too, but my mother especially. My dad's pedigree was pretty well developed. My mother's, on the other hand, I've been working on for 50 years. And it would really be nice to talk to her again. There are some questions I have. Unfortunately, I waited too long. Start recording what you found. I don't care if you just take a notebook and you start jotting everything down. There are forms that you can use, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But just start writing down everything that you know. And please, when you're looking for information on people, don't limit it to just their name. Just their name. John Smith is not a lot of help. We need some other identifiers. Where he lived, about when he was born, or about when he died, who his spouse was, who his kids were. Anything that can help us, his occupation even. Anything you can help us with beyond the name is useful. So you're like a detective. You want to gather all the facts you can about people. Okay, and then pick a place to start. Now, what did I say earlier? Start with yourself. Work from the known to the unknown. You're not going to Daniel Boone, unless you actually connected up to Daniel. But pick somebody that's at the end of what you do know and start working on developing, well, who's this person's parents? And then once you find them, then who are their parents? So find a place to start, and then review all the documents you can at Family Search, and we're going to be putting them in the Family Search tree. Once they're in the tree, they'll start giving you hints. So you're going to start looking at what's on Family Search that might help you with this person, and it'll even give you links where if you're like at the library here, you can click on Ancestry, it'll take you over to Ancestry Institution, and you can see what Ancestry has on these people. And then update that pedigree or family groups that you have. Those are the two main charts that we use. A pedigree chart is your tree, as we call it. And so that's where you put your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, and so on. By the way, if you go back 21 generations, there's 1 million people in that generation. Can you imagine that? 21 generations back, there's 1 million ancestors for you. Probably not 1 million different ancestors, because there'll be actually some intermarriages in there. You'll have some lines that duplicate, but there are potential for 1 million, I can't remember, 56,000 or something like that, ancestors, 21 generations back. Okay, then once you've updated the records, updated your stuff, updated your little notebook, whatever it is you're working on, go back to step 5, which is pick a place to start. Find a new place to start, and go through these, come back up to pick a place to start, and you're in a never-ending loop that you'll spend the rest of your life in. Because technically, that's basically what you're going to do. Okay, let's talk just a little bit about the Family Search tree, because you need to understand how it works. This is basically what a pedigree would look like. You've got maybe you're either the man or the woman here, or you've got a spouse if you have one, and then you have the parents of you and your spouse out to the side. That's what a pedigree chart would look like. Okay, this is a tree that's one for all. It's a shared tree, so there are some disadvantages. Most of the problems in this tree will occur further back than where we're at right now. You don't have to worry when you first get started about people changing things and stuff like that, because part of it is going to be you're going to be working with living people and only you're going to see them. But the changes usually occur back in the 1700s and stuff like that. You may have some issues back there with people, but it is a shared tree. You do have to understand that, and that's why I recommend have a program on your computer where you can put the final word down so it's always there and doesn't change, and you've got it to reference to. And then this is collaboration, so get used to the idea of reaching out to others. And they may want to reach out to you. But this is the beauty of this. We're going to try to show you a system to get started where you don't have to do a lot of work. You just have to do some investigation and benefit from the work of others. This is the best use of collaboration I can think of. And there's like 1.6 billion people in this tree. That's a lot of people. And especially if your ancestry is the United States, I can almost guarantee you within 2-3 generations back, 4 generations maybe at the most, you're going to start seeing your ancestors in the tree. And even if they're from other countries, you may start seeing them. They'll pop up. Every generation you go back increases the possibility of finding your relatives already found for you. That's one of the things that we're going to draw from today. Okay, the golden tree is one person equals one record. In other words, there's one record for each person. Unfortunately, there's a lot of duplicates in there. And the reasons, there's multitudes of reasons. One of them is you guys, when you get started, don't realize that they may be in there already. And you enter in another version of the person, and yours is enough different that it doesn't pop up as a possible match, and now there's 2 of us. There are other people that put what they call GEDCOMs in there, where they take their data from their computer and they make a file and dump it into Family Search, and they don't do what Family Search asks them to do, which is to check each person, because that's too much work. And they just say none of them are the same, and that puts in all these duplicates that way. So you're gonna find duplicates, and you'll see those tonight. And what we want to do is get rid of those duplicates and make them into one person. Okay, and they have a process called merging. I'll just leave that up there. We'll walk you through merging a little bit. What that basically does is you have two people, one you're going to keep and one you're going to steal the good stuff out of and put them over on this guy, and then this record goes out of sight. And then there's just that one record left. And you're going to reduce the duplicates in the tree that way. Okay, we need to talk about the living and the dead, because the way they're treated in tree is different. And the reason is for privacy's sake. So we have living records. Only the person that created a living record, a record of a living person, can see it. So you can't see my record. I'm in tree, but you can't see it. I can give you the ID number for it. You won't be able to pull it up unless you're me. It won't let you. You know my name. You'll probably see enough information to identify me at the time. You won't be able to find me in there. I'm in there 8 times. I happen to be an admin for Tree, so if you're wondering how I know I'm in there 8 times, it's because I've gone in as an admin and looked at myself, and there's 8 of me in there. There's one my wife put in, there's one each of my kids has put in, there's a couple that some of her cousins put in for some weird reason. And whatever, there's 8 of me in there, but only the person that makes the record can see it. Okay, and when you sign up, and we'll be talking about that in a second, Family Search will create a record for you. If your spouse has an account, that she won't be able to see that record, or he won't be able to see that record. They'll have to make one of you, and then you won't be able to see that record. But that's the way it is on living people. Only the person that is that person, or the person that made that record, is the only one that can actually see it. Okay, for the dead, everybody sees it. Okay, they're not private in that respect. And so once we get back to the dead in your pedigree, we will change the way we do things and start looking for possible people in tree already. Because that's the big thing. Instead of putting the dead in there, let's first see if we can find the dead. Because if they're already in tree, there's no work to do other than to link them up to your tree. And when they come in, if they have parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, they're going to come with them. You add one person, you could develop a whole quarter of your tree, if it's at the beginning of your tree. Okay, so essentially, we're going to take you, we're going to add in the living people in your tree, we're going to then start working on the deceased people, and when we get done, we'll have a tree. And we'll actually walk you through that tonight. Okay, now, your homework, how do you get started? We've already talked about it. Write down everything you can remember about your family, names, dates, places, relationships. The more you can remember, the better, but put whatever you know. Gather everything you can, the documents, the pictures, the newspaper clippings, anything that has value in genealogy. And contact the living relatives. You don't know how many times I've sat down at the computer in the Family Search Center and told the person, okay, get your phone out and call your mother, because I need her mother's name, and you don't remember it, it's just grandma. That doesn't work. So call her up and find out what grandma's name was and where she was born and when, and that sort of thing. Contact the living relatives. And your goal is going to be to get back to 1950. That's the thing that's nice. Because of the way genealogy works, we now have access to the 1950 census. There are some of us in this room that show up on the 1950 census. Okay, my wife and I, and the gentleman back there. There's a few of us that are old enough to even be on there. Heaven forbid that we're on the 1950 census. But if you can get your family back to the 1950 census, you're in business if they're here in the United States, because you can find them on Family Search or Ancestry on the 1950 census. From there, they'll start giving you hints that will help you work your way back. So just get the tree back that far. In many cases, they're all living people after that anyway. Some of you do have deceased relatives that were born after 1950, but the bulk of them are still alive. Okay, you need an account. This is all it takes to make an account. Your name, your birth date, and your sex. That's all it takes. If you're a member of the LDS Church, your membership number, so they can create a linked account to your membership. And that's all it is. There's no fee. It's free. Anybody can join. You need it to work in tree. Why? Because they want to know who's in there, especially if they're messing up or if they're doing good work. They want to know who it is that's doing the work in there. And other workers and other people in tree want to know who is it that added their grandmother's picture and things like that. So you need a way to communicate. You don't have, you can put in your email and things like that. You don't have to have that public. They have their own messaging system within Family Search. Well, they can send your account a message to your email, but the person sending it has no idea what your email is. The system uses your email to send you the notification. The message is inside Family Search. So there's ways to communicate without sharing even your email. Okay, once you've done that, you'll get a thank you thing after you've gone to your email and verified it, and you're ready to start working. And so the first thing you're going to want to do is formally sign in, and then click on the family tree to begin your journey. Now, they're talking about this one here. And so I've signed in, and this is what comes up, and so I'm going to click on there. But actually, what we'll do today, after we sign in, actually I'm using my grandson, because he's not doing any genealogies in high school, he couldn't care less. So I created an account for him, built his tree. So from now on, I'm Rustin. Okay? And so I sign in, and by the way, don't forget your username and password. The single biggest problem Family Search has is the multitude of users who immediately forget their username and password. Write it down somewhere, put it on the back of your hand or something, you know, put it wherever you remember your passwords and your usernames, because you'll forget it sooner or later, okay? And if this is your device, you can use that, keep me signed in for 2 weeks. There's a drawback, you will forget your username and password after 2 weeks. So beware. If you're going to do that, that's fine if it's your own computer, but just think about the drawback and make sure you've got a backup plan. Okay, tools of your trade. 2 things we use, a pedigree chart, we've talked about that, and the family group sheet. In Family Search, the pedigree chart will look something like this. You've got a person here, Benjamin Carter. These are his parents, Benjamin Carter and Sarah Reynolds. These are Benjamin's parents, Richard Carter IV and Sarah Beebe, and so on. That's the pedigree chart. After a while, it'll be easy to follow. You'll get used to it. If it's something that's totally, you know, different than anything you've ever seen, it takes a little work, but you'll get used to it. In Family Search, the other form is called a family group sheet, and it will look much different than what you're probably used to. If you're using paper, you've seen a paper printout where there's a lot more things showing. There's all kinds of information on these people, but on the family group sheet you're going to see in tree, it's going to be a very abbreviated version. You have to click on the various people, and anything that's in blue can be clicked on. And when you click on them, that opens up their page that has all the details that you're looking for. But those are the 2 main forms that you're going to use. And when you do click on one of those people, a person page shows up. And this is the page that we work off of most of the time. It has all the people's vital information, birth, marriage, death, well, not marriage up there, but birth, death, christening, things like that. It has other information, which right now I've got closed. It's got them as a parent with their spouse and children, if there are any, and then them as a child in a family if you know their parents. And then below there's some other things, and then on the right-hand side are all kinds of links. This is where you go to look in Family Search and Ancestry and MyHeritage and Find My Past, places like that. You just click there and it takes you to those websites where you can search records. This is where you can see the latest changes that were made to this record. That's why we leave a record of who we are so that you know who's been making changes. You have some tools that we'll refer to, and then there's a print menu over there. So there's a bunch of things on this. This is called the person page. You get it by clicking on any person in the tree, and it opens up their person page. Okay, so we're going to actually go to tree, and we're going to do a shortcut. We could. This is what you see when you first sign in. You're going to see a thing here that says, well, you want to get started? Because it knows you're brand new. So it's going to say, okay, you want to get started, you can go here. This is where I'd recommend you go. Don't do what I'm going to do tonight, because I'm trying to speed things up. You go here and it'll get used to it. Or you just go over here and it says, add your father. And you can add your father, assuming you know who your father is. What we're going to do is fudge a little bit and get right into the tree by going up to the top where it says Family Tree, and then we're going to go down to Tree and click there, and it's going to show you your tree. Now this is what your tree is going to look like the day you sign in. That's your whole tree, you. Okay, that's why you're going to have to do some work. Okay, because it's not going to build it out of the sky. You've got to give it some direction. And only you are going to be able to see that record, whatever it is. I can see that record because I signed in as Rustin. So that Rustin couldn't even see this if he wanted to. Okay, so we're going to start. We've taken a lot of notes. Remember we said write down everything you can find. So this is my notes for Rustin. Here's Rustin. Here's his dad and his mother, our daughter. Here's his grandparents on his dad's side, his grandparents on his mother's side. Gee, I wonder who those are. Well, that's me. And there's even a living great-grandparent, Lee Davis, who's still alive, last I heard. Okay, and then the other people here are deceased. Okay, so we have about 3 generations here of living people. That's going to be the easiest work we're going to do. Okay, we've got to put those living people in tree. And so all we do is, we're looking at Rustin here, we're going to go up here where it says add father, click on that, and we're just going to put his dad's name in. I don't care if it's his full name, even his nickname, whatever you want to put. You can put daddy in there as far as I'm concerned. The only person that's going to be able to see this record is you anyway. But you know, just put in what you want. If you want to fill it in with all the dates and stuff like that, that's fine. But you don't actually need it. Because you're going to mark the person living, and then you're going to click next. And when you click next, it's going to say, okay, you entered this. We can't find any matches. Gee, that's because it can't search living people. So what you're going to want to do then is just click next, or click create person, excuse me, over here underneath his name, click person, create person, and now dad's in there. And you're going to do it for mother, then you're going to do it for the grandparents, all 4 grandparents, and at that point, you're going to have that much of the tree. That's the easiest part of the tree. Those are all living people. Take you about 2 minutes and you're finished. You're ready to go from there. Now the fun begins. We start looking for deceased people. And so that's where we have to start trying to see what we can find. Okay, these people may or may not be in tree. So we'll just start over here with Russ Lowry and Denise Frazier. That's Rustin's grandparents on the father's side. And we're going to try to find the mother's parents. We know their names. We're going to say add mother. And then we fill in what we can know. We know her name's Norma Jean Crane. And by the way, ladies, you go by your maiden name in tree, not the married name, your maiden name. We know her birth date and her death date, and we know where she was born, where she died. Notice I'm typing Marysville, Snohomish, Washington. But the system already figured out, once I started typing Snohomish, that we wanted that place in Washington. Okay, so I don't need to finish typing. I just go down here and click on the correct thing. I'm not going to click on Marysville, Victoria, Australia. So be careful that you click on the right thing, or you might have some very strange relatives that are all over the world. Okay, but all I'd have to do is click on Marysville. Notice the dates or day, month, year. No matter how you put it in, Family Search is going to put it day, month, year. So instead of fighting them, just get used to saying day, month, year, and it'll work out fine. Okay, once I've done all that, then I'm going to click on Next. And it's going to start saying, okay, here's what you put in. Here are 12 possible matches. That first one, a little bit correct, but partly wrong. It's Norma Jean, but it's a different last name. But hey, that could be a problem, so I'm not going to rule her out just because of that. She has the exact same birth date. She's even in Sandusky, Ohio. This one has a specific town. I don't have that. But when you get down to death, our Norma Jean died in 2020. This Norma Jean died in 2006. And she really is a Heminger, and we need a Crane, so that's not her. Going down through the list, we come to Norma Rustin, and she's the person that we want. Unfortunately, they got the last name wrong. That's an entry error. Somebody was thinking about Russ and her husband, and put Rustin in there by mistake. Oh, we know she's really Crane because here's her parents, Archie Crane and Ruby Edison Crane, which is really Ruby Edison. The Crane's just her married name. So once I find that, I'm going to click the Add Match down here and put her in. Even though her name's spelled wrong, or entered wrong, I'm going to put her in there. And notice she comes with parents. The family attached to her comes with her. So I put one person in. I'm getting more than one back. Now, I do need to change this. And so what I'll do is I'll click on her name and then click on person. It takes me to that person page. And I can go over and click the edit by her name. And I can change it to Crane. I can put a reason in there. Rustin wasn't her surname. She was born Norma Jean Crane, based on the knowledge of her daughter, because her daughter's alive and we know her. Okay, and then we click Save, and her name will be correct. Okay, so there she is now. And it says there's no possible duplicates. Don't believe it. They're very stingy. It used to be when they first started, they let anybody that could possibly be, they'd mark them as a possible duplicate, and then we'd come along and some of us would say, well, Family Search says it's a possible duplicate, I'm going to merge them even though it's John Smith and Sam Jones. I'm going to merge them because Family Search says they might be a duplicate. Well, you can see the problems that develop. So they've got very stingy in providing you with duplicates. It really needs to be about the same person before they'll even suggest it. So there are possible others out there that we don't know about yet. But there's a place to go look, and that's where it says, find similar people. And I can click on that, and it'll bring up a list of people that might be her. Here's a Joretta Leah Crane, who's actually a sister to Norma, but it's not Norma. And then there's a Bobby Jean Crane, who's born also in Missouri, but in a different county, and so on. There's apparently no duplicates. That's the bottom line here. Even though it says there's a lot of possible results, if you don't see them fairly close to the top, it's probably not there. But you're going to keep looking as you develop this person, because you never know when that duplicate will show up. When enough similar things match, it will eventually become a possible duplicate. But now this is what happened when I put in Norma. She didn't come with just her parents. She came in with a whole pedigree. But remember back on the first page, verify everything. Those are a lot of nice names, but in time you're going to want to check every one of them and make sure that they really belong in that tree. You're going to try to see if there's a record that shows that Etta here is the mother of Ruby, or that Ruby is the parent of Norma, and so on. You want to find verification so that you know that these people really belong. But in these early generations, they're usually pretty accurate. Okay, so now we've got Norma figured out. How about her spouse? Okay, so we go and we have some information on him. So we fill it in, Don Frazier. This time we just have some years, 1930 to 2016. Didn't get the full dates, didn't get any places. We'll just see if we can work off of this and see how this does. And we click next to figure out what's going on. It says, okay, here's what you entered. Here's a possible match, and there's just one. I said Don Frazier, they had Don Lee Frazier, born in 1930, died 2014. Went back and asked the family, and they said, yeah, he lived in Cass County, and yeah, 2014 really was the right year. So we found our guy.
Sorry, Bob. The Crane spelling on,
You spelled it wrong. You put it in.
that's Crane with I-N, and then the other Crane, like the children or the other relatives were C-R-A-N.
Yeah, you're gonna see variations like that.
Okay,
And I'm not even gonna worry about it, but just be prepared for that.
okay.
I worked for a Don Reed, and it was R-E-I-D. And I found his family in Nebraska, R-E-A-D. He said, that's not my family, that's not the way we spell it. I said, Don, I'm sorry, but they're your family. And it was harder to convince him that they were his family than it was to find them.
Right.
Because he wanted it spelled a certain way. You're gonna see variations on it. Any name that could be spelled in a different way, it'll be spelled differently. And I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, but you identified in other ways, and so that's how you're able to tell that these people are
Yeah.
Go in
related to
and
each other.
edit it.
Or,
Go in and edit it.
yeah,
When you put Norma Jean Crane in, you put C-R-A-I-N and all the others are C-R-A-N-E.
Oh,
You
okay.
just misspelled it, so you could go in and.
yeah, you can go in and change that. So we're on Frazier.
Right.
This appears to be our guy. So we just click on add Matt, or wait a second, that's not our guy. I'll take that back, I'm making up a story. Too many families. Yeah, that guy looked good, but it wasn't the right guy. So they said, go ahead and just put what you have, and we'll go with that. So we're gonna take just our Don Frazier and stick him in there. Okay, now, that's gonna give us an opportunity, if I can get going here, to look and see if there's any sources that can help us. Because on this Don Frazier record that I just created with that very little sketchy information, Family Search has given me some suggestions for a Jerry Don Frazier. And its marriage records appear to probably be the same record listed twice, because it's probably got two sources for it. So we'll click the bottom one of them, and it's for Jerry Don Frazier, who married about 1953. He was born about 1934, so within 4 years of the date we were using. His wife's name is Norma Jean Crane. That's him. So his real name is Jerry Don Frazier. So the system figured that out for me. In one source, I've got that straightened out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to review and attach that source to his record. And by doing that, it's going to allow me to add the marriage date into his record. Now, this is where I said earlier at the very beginning, some things changed. Well, just today, actually yesterday, last night, I discovered they updated this program, which is called SourceLinker. They just updated it for my computer, my account, to where I can actually edit within my account the information on here. Like I can edit his name right in the SourceLinker as I'm doing this. I'm going to show you what we had to do before. We would just have to remember, okay, his name's going to have to be changed because we're going to be stuck with Don Frazier, even though we're sourcing a record that says Jerry Don. And his birthday to 1934 is not going to be there because I already have 1930. If I didn't have a birthday, it'd bring the 34 over. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach it. And I'm going to say the reason is this appears to be the marriage record for Norma Jean Crane and Don Frazier, as we knew him. And I click attach, and then I go down to the wife, and it says compare, so I click there, and it'll give me a box like that. And my reason for Jerry will be filled in on Norma, so I don't even have to type it again. And I click attach on there. And I just have to remember I'm going to have to make a couple of changes. This record happens to have a mother for Don Frazier, for Jerry Don Frazier. It says her name is Opal Frazier. Well, we know it's probably not Frazier, but her first name's Opal. So we'll go ahead and add her into tree with very little information. So we'll just click add. And when we do, I erased Frazier. I figured there's a very slim chance that she was actually a Frazier. Once in a great while, you might get a Frazier marrying a Frazier, but that's pretty rare. So I erased the last name and just left it Opal. Can't see it up there, but it's there. And that's all we know about her. But I marked her as deceased because she's got a child that was born in 1934. So she had to have been born no earlier than about 1914, something like that. So I'm pretty sure she's probably dead by now. And so, in fact, we know she's dead. So then I just say create a new person. And I have to go back and edit him. But now actually I could edit him right there in SourceLinker if I wanted to today, because I can do that. When I made these slides, I couldn't do that. But to edit him, I would just open up his page. Then I would go to like the edit for his name and then change it to say Jerry Don, which I've already done there. And now I need to look to see if there's some duplicates. And sure enough, here's a Jerry Frazier up there. So I said, okay, let's compare them. Here's my record, and here's the other record. The bottom line of this is, I'm working from now backwards. I know Jerry Don Frazier, but I really don't have his parents. I've got his mother's name, Opal. That's all I've got, but essentially I didn't have parents. This is a Jerry Frazier where somebody's working from before him coming down. They don't know who he married, but they have his parents and siblings. And you're going to see a lot of that where you're working your way back and you know how you got there. These other people work their way down, they get to this person, they don't know where to go from there. And you're going to bring the two together and you have a completed record. Essentially is what's going to happen. So we're going to say, yeah, let's go merge these two people. So he has both parents and siblings, children, spouse and children. And so we move everything out of this record on the left over into the right one. The right record will be kept. This record will be what they call archived. Essentially it disappears. And that's how they get rid of the duplicates and tree. We've kind of robbed it, if you want to call it. That's a bad word to use, but we've taken from it all the good stuff, like the birth date and the death information, and moved them over into archive so that we have a full birth date and at least the right death year. And then we brought over the parents and the siblings. So we have a record now that has both the spouse and kids, parents and siblings, all in one record. And then we give it a reason, two people are the same, they have similar personal information, and between the two of them, you have the full family. And then we say finish merge. Okay, and when we're done, you can see how much the tree's grown again. Because again, we brought a deceased person in that came with the pedigree. And this whole pedigree section came in, but Opal doesn't have anything. But there's a couple of Opals here. Because we have Opal England married to Fred Frazier, and we have our Opal, which is what's showing in the pedigree chart, with Jerry here. And these are the same record. You can see the ID number ends in XG3 on both of them. So they're both dark print. That means we're on his page. And so it's not like there's two Jerry Don Fraziers. There's one Jerry Don Frazier showing twice. And we need to merge her together. But for the sake of time, I think what I'll do is just kind of click through this. We're going to merge the two of them together and take the Opal that we made, that was a very incomplete record, copy her number, and then take Jerry out of her family, which turns her loose in the system, but we want to put her back in because she's a duplicate. And we'll go merge her with the other one, the Opal England. And we'll do it by merging by ID, put her ID there, and then we can merge the two of them together. We'll keep the full name, obviously, with the dates and all that, and we've got her done. But she has no parents showing. And so we know when she was born in 1907, we should be able to find parents for her. Neither of those records had parents for her. And so we'll just look at family search up there. And what it does when you click on family search there, it starts looking for records that might be her. The very first one's the 1910 census. She's 3 years old. Should have her parents. Well, here's an Opal England, born in 1905 in Missouri. She's living in Carroll County, which is where she married. And her parents are Ed England and Nellie England. Somewhat unusual name, is most likely her. What's interesting is there's a little tree there. It's already been attached to something. But it told us we didn't have a duplicate. What's going on? Well, it's really interesting because when you click on that, it's connected to an oral England. Somehow the transcriber looked at that record and said, that name is oral, O-R-A-L instead of O-P-A-L. And if you look at the original record, knowing what you want it to say, you can see those letters. But if you didn't know what you were looking at, it came out. The transcriber said, oh, that's oral. But it's a girl. So we know it's the right gender anyway. And so what we'll do is we're going to merge oral with Opal and then change the name, make sure we get the right name in there, and maybe make a note that somebody mistranscribed this record. And put her in there, and when we're done, she'll have parents, because she was already connected to her parents on that census. Here's her parents. And when we merge them together, we'll again have her spouse and kids with her parents and siblings. We'll have them all in one record, which is our goal, and now we've got a more complete tree. Still missing another England up here, a couple of generations up, but that tree's getting better and better. Almost done. Now we go to the other side of the family, which has been well researched. Okay? And we'll show you, if you know that the family is most likely in tree, this is really all you've got to do. To get my parents, I just put my dad's name and my mother's name. Nothing else. Now, if you put just a person's name, yeah, you're going to get thousands of people. But think about this. What are the odds of a Joseph James Gibbons married to a Jenny Elizabeth Hale? One couple. And that works for almost everybody unless you've got John Smith married to Mary Jones. Then you're going to have to work a little harder, yeah.
I had two brothers married to women with the same name,
Oh, lovely. You gotta love it.
from the same state.
Ugh, hate it. These people, I think they did this knowing you were gonna come along.
I know, the reason I didn't catch it, but somebody else that was working on that part of the family tree, we were messaging back and forth, they caught it.
You know, I have a Barney line where 2 brothers marry 2 sisters.
Yeah.
And that's fun, but that eliminates a lot of research on the
Oh, yeah.
pedigree, because
But
you only
this,
have to search one pedigree to build 2
they
trees.
were exactly the same names.
So there is advantage there once you sort out the mess.
Mhm.
Okay, so I say, okay, that's what I'm looking for. Family search says, okay, here's your guy. I said, yep, that's my dad. Died here in Fresno, 1984. And he was married twice. These are his parents, that's him. This guy here has got the right name, but that isn't my dad because his wife was born in 1764. My dad was old, but he wasn't that old. Okay, so I say, add match, and because he has 2 spouses, it's going to say, okay, which pair do you want? Well, I want the pair with my mother, not my dad's first wife. And so I say select couple down below. It puts my parents in, and there's that whole pedigree built. I can do the same thing for my wife. That whole pedigree will be built. That tree now is 3/4 done, and we probably spent a half hour. And that's the value of doing it this way to start with. Then eventually you will have to start doing research. There's no way to get away from it. But you can do a lot of preliminary stuff at Family Search doing this. The advantage over Ancestry is you're going to have multitudes of trees to have to look at. I have one ancestor in my tree that's somewhere right in here, and he's got 5,000, he's in 5,000 trees in Ancestry. Which tree are you going to look at? You know, that's the problem. We're here, he's in one tree. And for good or bad, that's what we've got. We only have one thing to work off of, which is nice. Okay. Again, remember, you can always go up to the Help Center by going to the question mark and then ask your questions. It'll give you suggested topics. I was on a pedigree page, so it gives you pedigrees, questions. Or I could just put my question up here, or I could go down, it'll say Help or Learning now instead of Help Center down below. And then there's also community. If you use Facebook, you're probably familiar with groups on Facebook. Family Search has a thing called community, which is kind of like Facebook on Family Search. And in the community, they have groups and they have a place for questions and answers. When you go to the Help Center, or Help and Learning as it's called now, you could pick a topic, like if you were working in memories, you could just click memories and then ask your question, and all the answers will come back with memory type responses. If you were working in Family Tree itself in general, you'd use Family Tree. If you were doing indexing, you could click on indexing first. Just a way to simplify the search. The community looks like this. They have a question and answer section, which is a lot like that Help and Learning Center, because when you click on that, you then get these topics, and if you're working on memories, you can just click memories and there'll be a place there where you can ask questions. You can look at the prior questions and answers. Somebody will get back to you and give you an answer to your question. They're using that as part of their response for you. Almost there. Okay, they have Contact Us. It used to be 24/7. They had trouble getting volunteers. So they've had to cut back. So it's essentially 8 to 8, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Saturday, Sundays 1 to 8, Mountain Time. So it's really 7 to 7 here, or from noon to 7 on Sunday. The number's 866-406-1830. Excuse me for the equal sign there, should be a dash. And you just call that number during those hours. and you will get connected to a volunteer that can help you. They still have email. They tried cutting this out. That's what's funny. They tried to eliminate email and said, just go to the community. They had such a kickback that they put the email back in. Because they were getting so much flack, they were afraid they were going to lose customers. So they put it back in. I expect sooner or later they're going to eliminate it. If you were in different parts of the world, you'd be using WhatsApp, other things like that, because that's what works in those other parts of the world. But for us in North America, this is what we have. So you still can do an email with them. Okay, so in conclusion, I hope this has given you some ideas of what to do to get started. The big thing is don't reinvent the wheel. See what other people have done, and then you'll know what you have to do. My mother, when she started 60 years ago, she had 3 lines that were already developed at Family Search, even back then. Nowadays, we'd see our whole tree. And it's not just because of me. A lot of other people started buying in. So, don't reinvent the wheel. Try to do what you can. And it really isn't hard. They'll guide you, no matter what website you use, they'll guide you through the process. I hope this helps you. I hope it inspires you. Questions? Yeah.
You said Family Search is a free service.
Yes.
Always a little cynical, I guess. What's in it for Family Search as an organizational company?
Information.
It's all altruistic.
But what are they doing with it?
It's in there so that the LDS people can search their ancestors, but everybody deserves to be able to use it. So they said, why not open it up to the world? And we can all benefit from it.
Some, like I say, they'll benefit
And
from
so
what you
that's
put in.
essentially what it is. They're not trying to make any money off of anything. In fact, what they do is most of the records you find at Ancestry, use Ancestry.
Yes.
Most of those records came from Family Search. Family Search shared them. And Ancestry went and digitized them, put them on their website, and Family Search said, fine, go ahead.
It seems like they would have to have some resources to operate monetary.
They use their own resources from the church, millions of dollars. And they just do it as a public service to the world.
Thank you.
And same thing with the Family Search Centers. There's 8,000 of them worldwide. And the expenses that are incurred, the power, the computers, the printers, the ink, the paper, that's all provided for free. And, use it. That's what it's there for.
If you've never been to Salt Lake, you need to make a trip and go there.
Oh,
It's
that's an
awesome.
experience.
It's an experience and it's awesome.
Yeah.
And there's a hotel right around the corner that you can stay at.
Awesome. There's a bunch of them, but the cheap ones.
No, but the one is right there on the corner. You
Yeah.
walk right out the side door and into the center.
And in there. I had a question over here.
Yeah, I'll try to state it clearly.
I know it's-
Is there any, unless you're looking for something in particular, is there any point in putting the parents of, let's say, your aunt's husband in your tree?
You can do that. You can put anybody you want
But
in
is
the
there
tree.
any point in it, is what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's no limit. You will find some problems dealing with records if they're from parts of the world like the Persian countries, the Arab countries, because there's some restrictions there. But they won't stop you from putting the stuff in there. You just might have trouble doing some research on them. Or Holocaust victims, things like that. Jewish people got real touchy about publicizing those, and so you really stay away from those records. But basically, you can put anything you want in there that's real.
I just wondered. if
They'd be
there's
your
value
friends.
in it.
Well, that's how I found the Second Life.
You know what else, my cousin who's been doing it as long as you have, when I started my tree, I was just using just my main and not branching off, and she had branched off. And she suggested that I do the same because someone might be looking at my tree and they're not gonna be able to find what they're looking for, to connect to her or what have you. It helps other people who are doing their family search too, the more information you have.
One of my concerns though is that your tree is going this way instead of going up.
Yeah, it's going up and down in that case, and then maybe back up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay.
And really, if you're following mother-in-laws and father-in-laws, you're just gonna keep going, and what value, that's why my question is, what
There
value?
won't be much
is it
value to
Well,
you,
as I
but
was,
like she says, it could be of value to other people.
Collaboration.
for me, that's how I found the brother that had the same name as the one I was looking for. The wives had the same name. If I hadn't had the brother in there, it wouldn't have come up.
Now, some of us are just crazy. We like to put stuff in. I went in there, I have a real good friend that I taught with, and I was helping him do some genealogy just before he died. And I thought about it the other day, and I went and looked him up, and Ron's intrigued now, but he didn't have a pedigree much. I think he has parents' names, and that was about it. So I spent an afternoon, and I developed his tree for 3-4 generations, just for the heck of it. I said, okay, well, now some people might be able to find Ron. You know, it's just, you know, some of us are crazy that way. We like to help people. It doesn't have to be just ours. Any other questions? Just don't be afraid to try. That's the big thing. Just don't be afraid to try. Turn it over.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank Bob for making another trip.
Thank you.
And the other thing, he's talking about places you could go for help for those that aren't really familiar with the library here. I think Tulare in this area is very fortunate in that we often call it the small hidden gem, and that's our genealogy room here in the library. It's open 1 to 5, Tuesday through Friday, run by volunteers, and so you're like, he explained this to me, but I'm kind of lost. Okay, we'll come in here, and not that we are all out of the woods, we might still be scurrying around trying to find our way through the past too, but we'll try to help, so that's available to you here. And as he mentioned, a lot of the libraries, including this one, has ancestry.com used in the library for free. So if you can't afford it yourself, or don't want to, but would like to have access to it, you come in here to the library and use it there. The other thing I would be is, and he was kind of alluding as this is a never-ending story, it kind of is. And you know you're really hooked when you find yourself, maybe on your home computer, or looking at some of the tips while they're still fresh in your mind from Bob, that it's all of a sudden it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you don't realize it. I can't quit now because I just found my man, Casper. You know. So, but it's fun. And I can speak for myself, and I'm sure all the rest in here that have come across that. And of course, you have to be prepared for the good as well as the bad. But the stories you could come across can sometimes be amazing. And so those in themselves, you know, just when I first really started back then, or before I started, it was kind of like, I don't know, so what? How do I go far back? So-and-so married, so-and-so, born, died, married, had kids, what? Then you find, wait, great Uncle Charlie, how did he die? He was hung as a horse thief back in Kansas. Whoa, this is getting interesting. So, anyway, just a few other tips, but I certainly appreciate Bob coming. I've been doing it for quite a few years, not near as many as Bob has, but I still picked up some things. Yeah, so I think if you should just get started, or even if, like some of the others in here have been doing it a while, use some of the tips he's given, I think it'll really help you on your search. It is an astounding search, and I think one well worthwhile. So, having said that, we have some refreshments in the back. You're welcome to take a look.